I was born in a year that appears in every history book in the world, 1975. While the world was talking about the end of a war, my world was just beginning, in a small, leaky house in the north of Vietnam. I had no internet, no milk, no electricity, but I had stories. Stories that took me 50 years to understand. This is not just a history of Vietnam. This is how I learned to think simply in a complicated world. Search it on Google at that time. You'll see tanks, helicopters, headlines, and the end of the most controversial war in modern history. But while the cameras were focused on Saigon, my world began somewhere much quieter, not on a battlefield, not in a city, but in a small village in northern Vietnam, hidden among the hills 100 kilometers from the capital. No cameras, no reporters, just the cold wind of February slipping through wooden shutters. People often imagine the year 1975 through maps and explosions, but when I picture my own beginning, I see something different. A dim room the color of old paper, a kerosene lamp flickering whenever the wind pushed in, and the soft, uneven breathing of my mother. That was my Vietnam. Small, fragile, human. And while I was being born into silence, my father was 600 kilometers away, fighting in the campaign to liberate the ancient city of Hue. I took my first breath while he was dodging bullets. March 1975. Hue was liberated. The main army pushed south to finish the war, but my father's unit received an unexpected order: move back north for a strategic regroup. A strange twist of fate, but destiny loves detours, because that detour led my father straight to the village where I was. They had only half a day. My father rushed home, still covered in battlefield dust. He looked at me, a 1-month-old baby, like I was a creature from another planet. Too small, too fragile compared to the steel tanks he'd been riding for months. And he didn't come alone. He brought his comrades, a whole squad of exhausted soldiers who hadn't touched innocence in years. Suddenly, our tiny home was filled with uniforms, boots, and wide, emotional smiles. Starving for something pure, they passed me around like a precious trophy. They hugged me, kissed me, held me close, their bodies still smelling of gunpowder and road dust. That intense love was, of course, toxic for a newborn. I got sick almost immediately. The next day, my father had to leave for Hanoi, leaving behind a feverish baby. My first life lesson. Sometimes, even love can be dangerous. I survived, but the country was struggling. We had no electricity. My nights were lit by a kerosene lamp, or sometimes nothing at all. My air conditioner was my mother's hand fan, waving back and forth through humid summer nights. We slept under a mosquito net, a white fortress protecting us from insects and the darkness outside. Inside that net, we were poor, but somehow we were safe. My mother later told me that during those nights, the entire village felt exhausted. Not peaceful, just tired, like a runner crossing a finish line and collapsing instead of celebrating. People held their children with a tenderness only those who survived chaos could understand. My father joked that I was born into a country starting from zero. He didn't mean it sadly. He meant it as a promise. Starting from zero means you have nothing to lose and everything to build. Our roof leaked when it rained. My crib was a wooden box hammered together from leftover scraps. My blanket was my father's old jacket, patched at the elbows, faded from sun and sweat. He wrapped me in it because we only had one real blanket, and that jacket became my first cradle of warmth. That, to me, is the true history of 1975. Not politics, not battles, but a family welcoming a child with whatever they had left. Growing up in a transitional year is strange. I grew up hearing adults talk about what life was like before the war and what changed after the war, but I don't fully belong to either side of their stories because I was born right in the middle, in the year everything shifted, with no memories of the past and no sense yet of the future. I didn't remember bomb shelters. I didn't experience the comforts of peace. I grew up in the in-between, where people weren't sure whether to let go of the past or trust the future. From that sick baby in 1975 to the man talking to you in 2025, the journey feels like science fiction. I went from queuing for hours to buy a small piece of meat with a coupon to see the first color TV, to learn English word by word, to connect to the world through a painfully slow internet, and now to use artificial intelligence to tell this story. I've lived through 2 centuries, 2 millenniums, and countless versions of myself. The world today is fast, complicated, noisy. But the boy from 1975, the boy wrapped in a patched jacket under a kerosene lamp taught me one simple truth. Happiness doesn't need much. It never did. This series is my memoir, a story about history, culture, and how to keep a simple mind in a chaotic world, about a child and a country growing up together.